the rundown. You ever seen those like official scores of like 2, 3, 6, 4, 1, 5 tag out because you have to do all the people that touch the baseball? I've never seen a player duck out of a way of a bat and then forget that the play's not over and then get picked off of third in extra innings in a game that had kind of massive playoff implications in a season where the Mariners. I was today years old when I saw Julio Rodriguez getting picked off of third after dodging a bat. So we haven't talked a ton of baseball on the program, probably because that's a nice encapsulation of where the Mariners season has gone this year. My team is rattled with injuries, not that any of you guys care, and are just kind of hanging around. But yeah,
we're kind of, well, I'll say this side of the glass are for selfish reasons. We're supporting the Orioles.
Yeah, you've been a diehard Orioles fan.
Yeah, the Orange Birds.
Your whole 4 months. Yeah,
gonna be clinching a wild card spot here coming up soon.
You gonna get your Orioles AL. Are they gonna? They're gonna win the division, right? Or are they gonna?
No, Yankees won the division.
Yankees won the division last night. You're right. Yeah, they celebrated on the field.
It was a back and forth, but yeah, pure.
Are you gonna get some Oriole like wild card gear?
Oh, dude, I already got an Adley shirt.
Well, I'm just saying. Now you're in the postseason. See, this is how they get you in baseball. Having a shirt, that's not good enough. No. Now you got to get the postseason clinched. AL wild card.
The problem is, Justin, MLB postseason plays their postseason during this thing that's kind of important to us. So it's kind of tough timing, isn't it?
I'm so torn. Can I tell you how torn I am as a baseball fan right now? I know that even though the Braves are just 2 games back and they've got a series with the Mets coming up and the Mets will not bleep and lose, I know that the Braves still have a chance of making it into the postseason. So while I always want my team to play in the postseason because baseball postseason is so fun to watch, especially when you are invested. It is so fun to watch. But then on the other hand, I'm like, I know that the Braves' 2 best players are out for the season. They're rattled with injuries. The fact that they're still hanging around is pretty amazing. Do I just want the season to end? And just because they can't win the World Series, and I know that if they do make the wild card, I will inevitably talk myself into believing that, well, ball bounces funny in the postseason. Acuna got hurt 2 years ago, and they won the World Series then. It's like, yeah, that wasn't all the injuries that they're dealing with this year. So I'm like, do I want the frustration of the 2024 baseball season to continue, or do I want to just rip the Band-Aid off and just like, can we just end the season? I don't know. But I hate the Mets. I hate the Mets. And see, that's where you're as a new Oriole fan, you have yet to develop your hatred of certain teams.
Oh no, I do not like the Yankees. Absolutely.
That's easy, but that one's easy, yeah.
It's kind of always been that way. So,
Even when Jacoby was on the Yankees?
I liked him more as a Red Sox. It's true. I mean, don't get me wrong. Game, respect, game. Judge is awesome. I'm not one of the people that hates A-Rod. But that being said, they're the evil empire, man. And I'm a hypocrite because I've rooted for some before, but that's just the way Brennan's brain is wired today.
Alex Rodriguez is a fascinating experiment in sociology, because, again, all A-Rod ever did. Now, not saying he was blameless in his career, but all A-Rod ever did was get the most amount of money that was ever offered to him, as any of us would, and took performance-enhancing drugs that everybody else was taking. But there's something about him. Do you know what I mean? There's just something about it. I'm with you. I was never an A-Rod hater. But I can understand if you were a Mariner fan, you're like, wait, part of the problem was A-Rod came out and said, I'm not leaving, then he left. And part of the problem was A-Rod, when he did leave and I will Never forget the number because it was $252 million at the time, seemed like an astronomical amount of money. And then in the opening press conference, A-Rod had the gall to be like, yeah, no, this isn't about the money. It's like, A-Rod, I don't know if you've seen the team you play for. The rest of them all stink. And they did. And they finished in last place, yet he still won an MVP because he was on performance-enhancing drugs, and he took basically the entire payroll of the Texas Rangers. Meanwhile, while he was there going like, it wasn't about the money. It's like, yeah, it was. But in terms of like guys that you really should dislike, A-Rod, the fact that he is high up on that list, all he ever really did was be an attention, let's say, hog. There's another term, but like I said, it's 6:11 in the morning. All massively crave attention. Get as much money as he could possibly get on the market, which I would do, you would do, everyone would do, and then got busted for now. He did get busted for steroids twice. He did get busted the first time, and MLB said it. You're suspended. Don't ever do that again, A-Rod. And A-Rod said, you clearly don't mean that, right? I'm A-Rod. And then he got busted again. And this is where I think maybe somebody like me kind of turned the corner on A-Rod. Because I'm, like I said, I'm with you. I don't hate the guy. Brendan, A-Rod gets busted for steroids once. I believe that's a 50-game suspension. He gets busted for steroids twice. It's an entire season at that point. That was the, I believe, the MLB rule. Performance-enhancing drug, you get busted a second time. It is 162 games, an entire season. He was in his late 30s, might have even been 40. And everybody's like, A-Rod, so you're done, right? You've been busted for steroids twice. You've taken a season-long suspension. You're clearly done playing. And A-Rod goes, I'm not done playing baseball. And guess what, Yankees? I'm still under contract with you. I'm still going to play. I have some numbers to put up there because they're probably going to keep me out of the Hall of Fame, but I'm going to make it really hard on them. And at that point, I was like, you know what? Respect, A-Rod. Respect. You've been busted twice for steroids. Everybody thought you were gone, out of the picture. It's like, I'm going to come back and play. Are you going to restructure your contract? No. At that point, he's up to $275 million, which, again, astronomical number, but it's the evil empire that is the Yankees. And it was like, yeah, I'm going to come back and play. And you're going to keep paying me. Because if I retire, then you guys have to stop paying me, and we're just not going to do that. Fascinating sports sociological experiment. So, Julio Rodriguez finds a new way to lose a game for the Mariners. Don't know how much more in depth we need to go into that. We've done an awful lot of baseball for September, but some interesting news. Rumors swirling about the Pac-6, maybe soon to be 8. Is it going to be 10? Is it going to be 12? Rumors are swirling around the rebuilding of what was once known as the Conference of Champions. So we're going to dive into that. The ACC has a radical idea of revenue sharing amongst their teams. And Dan Orlovsky of ESPN has one of the weirdest ways of eating a hot dog, which we'll talk about coming up in hour number 2. But Oregon State looks to rebound against Purdue this weekend, and kind of, for Beaver fans, probably head in two different spaces. One head, got to get ready for Purdue. The other head, what's going to be the future of the Pac-12? We'll dive into that coming up next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, as we look towards the weekend, Oregon State's got Purdue coming off of a 66-point butt whooping that they took from Notre Dame. Boy, Notre Dame took out a lot of frustrations against the old Boilermakers. A lot of people were ready to write off Marcus Freeman and write off the Notre Dame Fighting Irish as they lost to Northern Iowa in the classic of all classic trap games. And poor Purdue, they got the bounce back effort. Oregon State also took a bit of a whooping in Civil War on Saturday. So now the Beavs get ready for another Big Ten school in Purdue coming to Reser Stadium. We talked about it a smidge yesterday. This is a big deal for Trent Bray as a head coach. This game, this situation is a big deal, huge deal for Trent Bray. Because you've got, for the first time, a lot of other distractions. Because I think back to when Trent Bray was hired. Brendan, correct me if I'm wrong. When Jonathan Smith left, the Pac-12 was already falling apart.
Oh, yeah.
The Pac-12 was falling apart. Trent Bray took the job, went out recruiting, and then fairly quickly after last year's Civil War, they came up with the schedule with the Mountain West and everything else. Well, now you've got, as a head coach, a team that's now has to refocus their season. See, this is the thing about college football that is it's incredibly entertaining, but it is also maddening. Maddening is that 2 weeks ago, who knows what the ideas and thoughts or expectations for Oregon State football were in their locker room in the Valley Sports Complex. Who knows what it was? They might have been thinking, hey, let's show everybody, kind of what the Cougs are doing right now. Let's show everybody. Well, that dream's now gone. Now you have to refocus your dream. And I think that's where these coaches get paid the big bucks. Yeah, it's one thing to come up with X's and O's. And yeah, it's another to recruit and a glad hand and all that stuff. But it's another thing to go, okay, guys, our hopes and dreams are now different. How do you keep focus? How do you keep energy up? How do you keep a team going in the right direction when the direction has changed? That's going to be a big deal. And the first time ever for Trent Bray, you have to get a team back from a good old woodshed. You know?
Oh, it was.
Do your generation understand when people say behind the woodshed? They understand that's where
when you'd misbehave, your parents would take you behind the woodshed with a belt and.
Mine was a wooden spoon.
Well, yeah, mine was a wooden spoon.
It was a wooden spoon, and it was not. And we didn't have a woodshed because I lived on a cul-de-sac. It was my room, but.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely that saying was not. That saying is very timely, I would say.
I don't know if any of our younger listeners, and by the way, good morning, kids, welcome. When I say, hey, take him behind the woodshed. What are you talking about? You're about to learn some things. Well, they did. How do you refocus and how do you keep the locker room together? And again, I might be harping on this too much. Fair warning. But we live in a culture in college football right now where when everything doesn't go your way, a lot of players, not the majority, but enough, well, forget it, I'll just transfer. You know what I mean? When everything does not go your way, there are players all across the country who took a loss in week 3 and are like, all right, forget it. I'll just transfer. I'm hitting the portal anyways. This is, again, where the coach's gray hairs come from, and this is where you make your money. Because football doesn't work if you don't play as a team. Football doesn't work if it's a bunch of individuals playing together. It has to work as a team. And if all of a sudden there might be a couple of Oregon State players going like, Atticus looks like he's having a whole lot of fun over there. Maybe I'll just transfer. And you have to, as a coach, get focus back, get back on the field, which is why this is probably the longest week in Trent Bray's coaching career. Because I'm sure if he would have petitioned college football and said, hey, can we play this game on a Wednesday? He would have been like, please, I want to get back on the field as soon as possible. So you got that. And while that is going on, the future of Oregon State seems to have a clearer version than it did 2 weeks ago.
Heck, Justin, I mean, you can go back to a year ago when we're sitting
Yes.
here. I mean, just at the very, I know there's been some conversations about, you're becoming essentially just a quasi Mountain West. Well, yeah, say what you will, but make no mistake, Justin, the Big 12 was obviously the goal, but this is far better than the Pac-2. Like, every time you add more teams, I mean, that helps you get to where, I mean, you think about where they were with two teams.
Mm-hmm.
For what? The conference blew up in August. I mean, there was not a lot of positivity.
How do you go into a living room? This is why I agree with you.
Yeah.
How do you go into a living room and tell a recruit who maybe is between you and maybe a Mountain West school, and maybe a Big 12 school, how do you go into a recruit's living room and be like, oh, no, we're going to be just fine? It's like, are you? What conference are you in? Are you going independent? Because that stuff does matter. Maybe not as much as NIL. Maybe not as much as the ability to get to the next level. But are we going to be on TV? Are people going to see me play? That stuff matters. And 3 weeks ago, Trent Bray could not have gone into a living room and sat down, because, by the way, they recruit all the time now. Even in dead periods, they still find a way to somehow, some way keep tab. But couldn't go into a living room and be like, nope, don't worry. Now it's like, nope, we're rebuilding the Pac-12, and it's a plan, right? There's a plan in place. Not the concepts of a plan, but a plan. I'm going to keep using that joke. Still funny to me. And do we know exactly the end? No. But you know what? You have a schedule for 2026 starting to come together. And that, could you imagine being a high school kid? You're playing football right now. You come in, your red shirt, where am I going to play when I am a sophomore? I don't want to transfer. Where am I going to play? Well, now we know. At least part of it. So we did this last week in terms of the Bachelor or the Bachelorette, because the Golden Bachelorette's going on right now and handing out roses left and right. So now, Brendan, as we were handing out roses last week, let's take some roses away. This is where it gets tough. This is where it gets tough in the Bachelor or the Bachelorette world, right? First weekend or the first night, yeah, you got seemingly an unlimited amount of roses on that table. All you got to do is get rid of the you got to get rid of the uggos, and then you got to get rid of the people that got too drunk night one, which there's always one. So now now it's time to start narrowing the field a little bit, and and you got that first impression rose. Do you have any idea what I'm talking about here with that first impression?
I mean, I haven't watched Bachelor in 20 years, but
yeah. You know what's funny? It's the same show.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah.
So you get that first impression rose. Cal and Stanford. That's best case scenario. Will Cal and Stanford be there at the end?
I don't understand.
Don't know. But I would say if you're Oregon State and Washington State, you're like, that is shooting the moon for us if we can get Cal and Stanford back. I don't think it's possible, but that's shooting the moon.
I just don't understand the obsession. Is it because Stanford is so bleeping rich? I don't understand the obsession with wanting Calford back. Like, I mean, I get the money, right? Stanford is, we said it yesterday, as far as a team invested in athletics if they wanted to be. Because Harvard doesn't have any success as far as athletically goes. Maybe they got some Jeremy Lin moments. Maybe the baseball team doing a cool Call Me Maybe video 10 years ago.
That was a long time ago, yeah. It was 12 years ago, I think.
Great pull, right?
But that was a dozen years ago. That's still a banger of a song.
Yeah.
All right, here's why I would say, here's what the obsession is with Cal and Stanford, other than, which we all know, markets, but
the Bay, that's true.
But I always argued, like, nobody in the Bay cares about Cal and Stanford football. Look at their stadiums on the days that they play. But here's the biggest reason.
Yeah.
In college, the term power conference, it's not an official designation. We just made it up. You know what I mean? We just made it up. Technically, if you go back and, because I saw some people arguing on the internet, I thought about diving in, and then I was like, I'm going to be better about this. I'll just do it on my show. Brendan, you know this because you cover college football. I do as well. There is no designation for the 4 power conferences getting an automatic qualifier. That doesn't exist. That is a myth. That is made up. Now, what does exist is the highest rated 5 conference champions do get an automatic qualifier. That doesn't mean that it's the Big Ten, the ACC, the SEC, and the Big 12. It likely will be, but it doesn't guarantee it. If there was a Mountain West school this year and an American Athletic Conference school, 2 conference champions that say were rated higher than the ACC champion, ACC champion's not an automatic qualifier. It's the top 5 highest rated. Now, the rating is determined by the committee. The committee would never let that happen, but there is no automatic qualifier. So if you are rebuilding the conference, you want to rebuild the conference with the biggest names possible. Cal and Stanford are still big names. They're names from the past, but they're still big names. People across the country look at Stanford and they go, oh, yeah, I know that team. They don't with UNLV. Even though UNLV might be a better football program moving forward, nobody in Macon, Georgia goes, UNLV. They're an up-and-coming program. Boise has some name recognition, but I think that's the obsession with we only Calford because they put them together. So if you want to be a team or a conference that, and the new Pac-12 should, that wants to get back in the mix in terms of making the college football playoff, you need some name recognition. And I think Cal and Stanford help that. I don't know if they make you a better football conference, but I think they help you because it's the perception and the reality. And I heard our good friend Josh Pate was talking about this. There's still a lot of people out there that think Michigan is a national championship contender, and he was like, take Michigan and all the same players for Michigan and put them in Iowa jerseys. You would never think that team could win the national title. But that helmet still has those Michigan wings on them. You know what I mean? That uniform, that maize and blue, still has a little magic in it. Cal Stanford make people think of the old Pac-12. Oh, yeah. That is the old Pac-12. I remember. So I would say those two. In terms of both market and football appeal, and I know there's a lot of people that are saying, no, you got to keep the Pac-12 out west. Keep it regional. Keep it regional. No. You go get Memphis and you go get Tulane. That's your second best option right there. If Cal and Stanford say thanks but no thanks for staying in the ACC, we don't mind all this plane travel, I think second best is Memphis and Tulane. Those two programs help you out. Name recognition, it gets you in the South, which, by the way, that matters. It gets you in the South, and it brings in some fairly decent football brands.
It's a nice recruiting footprint, too, Justin, for what it's worth. I mean, you think, like, if the Pac-12 starts to have a footprint in whether it be Texas, whether it be, get into, like, the more deep South, like you said with Tulane, like, just to see that you're, like, again, it may seem silly, but say there's a recruit in Louisiana, right, who's like, I'd be interested in Oregon State.
That's not how a recruit in Louisiana would sound. Do your Brian Kelly.
Oh, I'd be interested in Oregon State, but for one, I don't know where Oregon State is.
There it is. Nailed it.
But no, like, you know what I mean? Like, they would be like, well, why would I come play there if there's no chance my family? But if you go, hey, we come back and play Tulane every other year, like, that's something that even in the old Pac-12, it didn't really exist. So that's you might not think that's something, but it's more than you think.
It is something. No, I would agree with you. And here's the other thing I would say. If you want to build a hybrid conference, which is what they want to build, they don't want to be a group of 5. They're not going to be a Power 4. It's somewhere in the middle. I think you can build that. And if you go and essentially get the best of the rest, which I know it sounds mean-spirited, but you could, if you go and get Memphis, Tulane, along with the 6 that are already there, right, there's 8. Maybe UNLV, maybe UTSA. But
how likely do you think it'd be too, Justin? You mentioned it in the outset, but I think it's very fascinating for potential games. You think Tulane could ever use the Superdome? I know they used to play there, but now Tulane's got a much,
I bet you could get a game a year.
Like a much smaller stadium on campus. I know stadiums have been a big part of this discussion, right? It's like Colorado State, brand new stadium. Justin mentioned it last week.
I mean, and I know it seems silly, but that kind of stuff matters because perception is everything in college football. Do you look like a big boy program? It's why it took way too long to renovate Reeser, and I know there was money and everything else. You needed that.
It took so long.
You needed that.
10 years.
It's why at Oregon they're already talking about upgrading Autzen Stadium because they're going to go to the Big House. They're going to go to Camp Randall. They're going to go to all these Big Ten stadiums, and they're like, oh, boy. Even though it doesn't add any extra points on the scoreboard, it feels like it does.
They're going to go upper deck at Autzen, like add 2 levels?
I've heard lots of things.
Like go up, and just continue to go up, man. Like, I can see Autzen.
I think if you take the north end and match the south end, which the south end was because it's lopsided right now. Which
it is.
It's kind of interesting.
It is. It's a unique design, man.
Can I confess something? I don't like this lopsided.
Really?
I've never liked it.
Interesting. It's so unique, though.
I love Autzen Stadium, but again, my Autzen Stadium that I grew up going to, it was a nice little bowl. It was a bowl. That's what Autzen Stadium looked like. The O that's on the helmet, that's Autzen. And then now it's all lopsided. Now I'm glad they built the lopsided. That's the side that I sit on. No big deal. But
I'm very curious to see what happens because they just.
But they're already talking about you got to build up the.
Well, they have to.
Maybe it's my my smidge of OCD. It's like, can we just get it symmetrical? Can we just get it symmetrical, please? Can I tell you the stadium that bothers me the most? Levi's Stadium drives me crazy.
That's fair. Understandable.
I hate that stadium. It's like, can we make it symmetrical, please?
Yeah, it is kind of annoying. Now, that being said, Justin,
drives me nuts.
Northwestern.
They're building a new stadium.
The new one still will be. So only Northwestern, Minnesota, Maryland, Rutgers, Indiana can hold fewer than Autzen as far as the Big Ten goes. So there could be some
in Minnesota, though, that's a brand new stadium.
Yeah.
So it's like, One last thing I did want to say about teams going to the Pac-12.
For sure, yeah.
If you do want to build a mid-major, which is what I've kind of we call it hybrid, we call it mid-major. If you're trying to build a mid-major, you don't want to be a group of 5. You don't want to be linked in with the Sun Belt. I get it. You have to put teams also in that conference that are capable of going out and winning non-conference games against the big boys. That's the other thing, right? We can talk about market share. We can talk about stadium size. We can talk about footprint, recruiting. What Memphis and Tulane bring is a potential win against an SEC school. And they might not win your conference, but it makes your conference look better. You know, how many times have we seen that where the Mountain West, you get 3 teams winning a non-conference game against Power 5? Also, it's like, oh, the Mountain West, what a conference this year. They got to win, and they got to win. Like, that's what you have to do.
It's like Oprah. You get a win, and
you get a win against Power 5, and you get a win. What a moment. What a moment in this world. Oprah giving away cars.
I mean, you were a real one if you remember, like, watching it on TV or seeing, like, oh, yeah, I went home and, like, saw the highlights kind of a thing. Because, yeah, Justin, the kids these days, no idea. Well, they just see the meme. They just see the meme, man.
They got
no idea.
That's, again, 2 things that make you feel really old. One, you start complaining about jerseys. Saw some people complain about the new NBA jerseys, by the way. They didn't make them for you if you're complaining about them. You start complaining about jerseys. And 2... and this is where I get in trouble, and I have to push pause. The kids put up the memes, and I go, you don't even know what that's from. You don't even know what that's from. When Michael Scott says thank you, you don't even know what that's from.
It's true.
All right. Speaking of college football, the ACC floated out again. I guess no umbrellas in a brainstorm and no bad ideas here when trying to save the conference. But the ACC is throwing pasta at the wall to see what sticks. They've got an interesting idea. I don't know if it'll stick or not. We'll talk about it next. 620 Rip City Radio. All right. We're wrapping up hour number 1. We got some NFL to talk about in hour number 2. We got some make or miss as well. I got some stuff we saw on the internet, but we wrap up our first hour with what? Surprise, surprise. More college football because obviously the Big 12 or the Pac-12, the newly rebuilt Pac-12, they're trying to bring in the teams, trying to figure out how to get a TV deal, get a grant of rights, that's a fancy name for the TV deal, the amount of money that you will get to put your games on TV. And there's hope and optimism. There is panic and despair going on the other side of the country in the ACC as they are grasping at straws to try to keep Florida State, even though they're 0-3, and Clemson, who ain't what they used to be, happy and still in the conference. And they floated out a radical idea, which I'm intrigued by. We talk about that right now as we go on campus. All right, I work in an industry in the media where ratings are our value. Who's got the number 1 show? Well, let's take a look at the ratings. Ratings matter. Numbers matter. Your value is based upon, most of the time, not exactly how good you are, but how much of a rating you draw. Hey, why does Pat McAfee get to swear on ESPN? Have you seen the numbers? He draws ratings. How does Stephen A. Smith still have 4 jobs? For whatever reason, take a look at the ratings. And there's always been a difference in entertainment and then in sports because sports is a meritocracy. Yes, the Lakers and the Cowboys and the Yankees all draw better numbers, but they don't just get a ratings trophy at the end of the year. You got to win the championship. Well, the ACC, not exactly giving away a ratings championship, but they are now floating out the idea that the money that you make based upon on the TV revenue might be directly linked to how many people watch your games. We take a look at the ratings. People watch more Clemson games than they watch Virginia Tech games. Therefore, Clemson gets more money. You want to make more money? Get a better football product. Get on a higher level on the Saturday slate. Get your ratings up. There is a problem here, though. Because if I'm not mistaken, I believe still the highest rated college football program right now is Colorado. And boy, oh boy, maybe not Deion Sanders, but I just saw John Gruden. John Gruden said he'd like to coach in college. He wants to get back into college. He wants to get back into coaching. He wants to coach in college. How many teams out there would follow the Colorado path?
I'd be
of
intrigued.
Bringing in a celebrity, bringing in a big name, a figurehead, somebody who is going to draw eyeballs, who is going to create a 3-ring circus because we need that money.
Yeah, like it probably won't work out, Justin, but I'd take that swing if I was a team like, I mean, let's see, like I could be like a Mountain West squad, right? But like, let's say like Nevada is like, or Nevada, yeah. It's just like, yeah, let's do it, right? I mean,
okay, so
what's your downside if you're a school like that?
I might regret going here, but like, all right, Nevada. Who's Nevada's most popular alumni? Most well-known alumni?
Well, this guy.
What?
This one guy named Colin.
Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah.
Everybody's got an opinion on Colin Kaepernick.
True.
I have my thoughts. I'm going to keep those to myself. But everybody's got an opinion on Colin Kaepernick. What if the Nevada Wolfpack go and say, hey, we need to make more money, we need to draw ratings. We make Kaepernick our head coach.
That'd be great.
How many people are going to watch that?
I would.
Yeah.
I would. I'm not kidding.
Now, does that going to make you a better football program? Does that make college football better in general?
I would tune in to watch the Wolfpack if Colin Kaepernick's running the show, man.
But you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Teams would start doing it. Colorado is doing it right now. Colorado, maybe they thought, the bill of goods that Deion Sanders was trying to sell them was going to work. It's not. We'll see what happens this weekend against Baylor. But what Colorado has done is make money hand over fist because we all can't stop looking at Deion. He is an enigma. He is a celebrity. He is a bright, shining star. Not a very good football coach, but he's a celebrity. And if all of a sudden you are going to have now the money that you make determined upon how many people watch your team, we might see some weird stuff. We might see some weird stuff, which is interesting because I say this as an Oregon fan. Oregon did the same thing, right? Now, Oregon coincided marketing, branding, getting out on the edge of what people would assume is allowable in college football, but they also combined that with winning. And while they didn't have a brash head coach in Mike Bellotti, he was, he was a fairly even-keeled dude. What you did have was a very brash and aggressive benefactor in Nike who was more than willing to push the envelope with regard to marketing. And you're going to, all of a sudden, your money is going to be tied to your ratings.
It's intriguing.
I mean, are we going to have made-up quarterback controversy so that people will watch? Like they do cliffhangers on Netflix, so you watch the next show?
Yeah.
Like, are they going to have cliffhangers? How do you
think about where
we're going to clickbait in college football?
Yeah, I mean, just think about where that could go, Justin. Like, let's just live in a hypothetical world where Oregon State needed a coach, and you're why not go hire Ocho Cinco?
But
who wouldn't tune in? A
lot of people will be watching,
right? I mean, there'd be people probably.
Isn't Ocho Cinco on Colorado staff? Or no, he asked to be, and Deion said he wouldn't.
No, I don't. I think
he was nearly on Colorado.
I mean,
staff.
I'll say this. I don't think Chad would be a great coach. I'll say that.
You don't think so?
He strikes me as one
He'd get you a lot of numbers. A lot of people would show up to watch.
Doing than studying, if that makes sense.
Understood.
Yep.
All right. Coming up, got some NFL stuff. The Panthers say Bryce Young's not done. He's just taking
timeout.
Just in timeout. What does that even mean? Do the Dolphins need to go look for a second option at quarterback? Some quarterback questions in the NFL. We'll talk about that next. 620 Rip City Radio.
7 a.m. on a Thursday. Brendan Slaughter with you for Rip City Mornings. Carolina has temporarily moved on from number 1 overall pick Bryce Young, but the Panthers say they have no intention of trading him and that Young has the opportunity to still be the franchise quarterback. So we'll see what happens with Andy Dalton in the next couple weeks. Over elsewhere in the NFL, the Jets in New England are the Thursday night game tonight with the two teams squaring off in Jersey. Aaron Rodgers and company looking to go 2-1. And over more NFL news, Eli Manning leads a group of 16 players, including Luke Kuechly, Terrell Suggs, Adam Vinatieri, and more, who are 2025 first-time nominees for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Coming up in about 20 minutes, we got Make or Miss. Hour 3, we're going to talk with good friend Mike Parker. You got Rip City Mornings.
Hey, welcome back to the big show. Or if you're just waking up, hey, good morning. I hope you have a great day. It is Rip City Mornings. Hopefully you are all having a fantastic Thursday. If you are new to the program, welcome. Thanks. If you like what you hear, tell a friend. If you really like what you hear, maybe tell two. If you don't like what you hear, just keep that to yourself. Let's be our little secret. And if you're a returning customer, thank you. We appreciate you continuing to build brick by brick the Rip City momentum, Rip City Radio momentum, brick by brick, continuing to build. The voice you just heard during the update, that's super producer Brendan. We've got Make or Miss coming up in a smidge. We've got some stuff we saw on the internet and got some NFL talk. So you got Jets tonight. Jets, they've got their quarterback. They got their quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. He made it through week 1 unscathed, got a win in week 2, now Thursday night football game going up against the New England Patriots that surprisingly look like they are, what do we like to call that, competent, which is interesting because they didn't look like they were going to be at the beginning of the year. But I have said this a ton. In the NFL, there are 3 categories with regard to the most important player. Those are the teams that have their quarterback. Those are the teams that hope they have their quarterback, young guys. And then there are teams that are looking for a quarterback. That's it. That's all. Those are the 3 tiers. And if you are a team that is looking for a quarterback, you ain't winning a Super Bowl anytime soon. If you are a team that hopes you have a quarterback, best of luck. And if you're a team that has a quarterback, well, then you can go about the business of building to try to win a Super Bowl. But the days, and I know that it feels mean-spirited to keep dragging Trent Dilfer through the mud, but the days of the Trent Dilfer Super Bowl win, those are gone. Since really 2000, the only head-scratcher I think you could say in terms of a team that won a Super Bowl and go like, how'd they do that? I still think Nick Foles and the Eagles. That one's still a head-scratcher. Other than that, every other team's got a guy every other team's won a Super Bowl. Now, it helps that, like, Mahomes and Brady have won, like, 10 of the last, 16 Super Bowls. Something crazy like that. So, a big chunk of them was Mahomes and Brady, but...
And one of them's still going.
And
And
it doesn't look like they're slowing down anytime soon. But there are 3 interesting situations I want to talk about at quarterback. Brendan, there was a great show on Nickelodeon. Now, my Nickelodeon was different than your Nickelodeon.
Barry, you didn't have SpongeBob, Justin.
Did not have SpongeBob. We had we didn't really have cartoons on Nickelodeon. We had shows.
Yeah.
With shorts, we had Hey Dude, and we had a show called What Would You Do? And Mark Summers was the host, and he would bring people in, and he was like, what would you do? Do you want to win? And it was kind of a kid's version of Let's Make a Deal, right? So we're going to play a little, what would you do? Quarterback edition, because I think there are 3 interesting quarterback situations already 2 weeks in the NFL. We start in Carolina. Bryce Young has been put in timeout. He is the former number 1 overall pick. We talked about it yesterday. They gave up a ton to get him. He is now benched. I was trying to think of, has there ever been a quarterback, high profile, who got benched and then ultimately made it back. Fascinatingly enough, two that came to mind happened to be former Carolina Panthers quarterbacks because I believe Baker got benched, and he's a pretty good quarterback right now for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I believe Sam Darnold got benched, not by Carolina, but he went to San Francisco and was a backup there. He's 2-0 with the Vikings right now. And Jared Goff, kind of another name that popped in where he was kind of benched towards the time there, and then went back in that playoff game against the Seahawks before the Rams would trade him away, and he would be in the NFC Championship. So it's not unprecedented that Bryce Young figures it out, right? But Bryce Young's been put in timeout. If you are the Carolina Panthers, do you trust that? By the way, all three of those examples, none of those came of those quarterbacks that get benched as a young quarterback. They don't come back with their original team. I don't know if I can think of an example, a recent example, where a quarterback goes in, gets benched, and then comes back with their original team and wins their job back. If it's happened, it's escaping me. Usually, it's new life, new team. Before the value of Bryce Young is completely gone. Brendan, did you trade him? He's still a Heisman Trophy winner. He's still a number 1 overall pick. He still only has, I believe, 18 starts as an NFL quarterback. Now, you're not going to get what the Bears got. You're not going to get the value that you gave up for him. But if you're the Panthers, is it time to pull the plug on Bryce Young? Have we gone too far past the windmill, Back to the Future 3? What would you do? You're the Carolina Panthers with Bryce Young. You got to trade him, right? They say they're not trading him, but
I'd hang on to him.
Okay.
I like my theory of, I think, no disrespect to the Red Rocket and redheads everywhere.
Yes, buddy.
But I think this is, again.
We really appreciate that Ed Sheeran, really.
I know, right?
That guy's really crushing it for us right now.
I heard a good reference in a TV show the other day. Redheads are kissed by fire, Justin. How do you like that?
I'll take it.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's good or bad, but most of the time we even look at the sun. Like if the sun is on TV, we'll get a sunburn. So I don't know if "Kiss by Fire" is.
I heard that
is exactly the best way to go. But
yeah, I heard that as a reference, and I'm like, I'll have to mention that to Justin. But no, I'd keep him, and here's why: because I think Carolina's owner and their coaching staff are all in lockstep, and they have heard the groans of their fan base these last 2 weeks in this entire offseason, saying, you guys suck. Look at C.J. Stroud. You guys suck. You suck, you suck, you suck. And you look at, so it's been bad. You've seen
C.J. Stroud's going to be like their Michael Jordan, isn't it?
Oh,
isn't he?
totally. I mean,
we all know what I'm talking about here in Portland. Like, C.J. Stroud's going to be their Michael Jordan.
You've seen fans put bags over the heads in Carolina, and that's nothing new, but that is the sign of being at the all-time low.
But how do you come back?
So here's
how do you come back with Bryce Young?
So I think there's only one path, but Andy Dalton has to suck.
So essentially showing the fan base and the 15 people that are there going like, it's not his fault.
I think that's what you have to do.
There's other things at play.
For the lack of confidence that the fan base...
Didn't Nick Saban kind of do that last year? Remember the Alabama fans were all getting all hot and bothered about Jalen Milroe after they lost to Texas? And then he's like, all right, fine, I'm going to put these guys in there. Oh, we're not moving the ball with them either, so I'm going to put Milroe back, and you are going to shut up about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's logical here, right? Because if they're not trading him, which they said they aren't, you're going to throw Andy Dalton in there because everyone's like, oh, you look at these pieces, right? They got Adam Thielen. They got Deontay Johnson. They've got, guys who should be better than they are. But if they go out there and Andy Dalton can't get it done, then you're going to hear the fans be like, well, maybe Babyface has learned something.
By the way, Carolina Panthers 0-2 this season. They're a minus 60 point differential.
So we'll see if
Andy Rams are the next with minus 37.
Yeah, we'll see if Andy Dalton can rectify that. If he can't, I think give it like 3-4 weeks, Justin, then they'll maybe turn back to him.
Okay, next situation.
Sure.
What would you do? What would you do? That's how the theme song used to go. It was
then
awesome.
I would tender my resignation to David Tepper. That would be, if I'm GM of the Panthers, I'd be like, David, I'll go be an assistant for like the 49ers, man. At least it's fun.
Next situation. Los Angeles Rams, Matthew Stafford. He's won you your Super Bowl. The flag will fly forever. I think he's cemented himself as a Hall of Famer. Is he a Hall of Famer? I think so.
Oh, with his passing
With
yards.
his passing yards, and then he finally got over the hump.
And
he got
Megatron.
that.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
So
yeah. He's Hall of Famer.
So he's a Hall of Famer, but your team's hurt.
I think he takes...
Nakua's out. Cooper Kupp's out. Your team is decimated by injuries. Carolina Panthers are -60. You're a -37 point differential. That's second worst in the league. Your first two games did not go well, and that's to say the least, because you got a 41 burger put on you. Your next up is against the 49ers. Now, the 49ers also banged up, but you got to play against the 49ers this week. At some point, if you're the Rams, do you try to move on from Matthew Stafford? Now, I don't believe you can tank in the NFL like you tank in the NBA, but there are mini tanks, right? You can do like a mini tank where essentially you give up on your quarterback and say, Matt, you either need to pull a hamstring or we need to trade you, and we need to go young, and we need to get into the Quinn Ewers mix here, even though nobody's going to beat Carolina. What do you do if you are the Rams and you've got an aging quarterback it's a lot of money on his contract, and you are hurt? Los Angeles Rams quarterback situation. What would you do? Do you ride it out with Stafford and hope you get healthy?
I would explore trades, especially with a team, with a couple teams. Like, think about it. There's a couple connections, right? Like, if things don't work out in Minnesota, right? Minnesota and Kevin O'Connell worked Sean McVay, right? There could be something there if Sam Darnold's not, because that team is kind of ready to win now. Miami, if Tua's out, maybe they trade Stafford to Miami.
Maybe talking about Miami in a little bit.
Now, that being said, I think that those are probably a little far-fetched. If it was me...
The Raiders? What about the Raiders?
Drew Gardner has not looked very good.
I mean, he was okay. They're 1-1.
Yeah, okay.
But
yeah,
there's the Raiders. They're kind of you've got DeAndre Hopkins. Devontae Adams. And you got a really good defense.
Yeah, and it just stinks for them because, again, they kind of are backed into that corner unless they want to just say, hey, we're going to punt on the year. Stafford's still our guy. But
how old's Matthew Stafford?
36.
I mean, I guess guys are going to be playing until they're 40 now.
I know Aaron Rodgers...
Let's just say there's a lot of, a lot of medical advancements to keep guys playing in their mid to late 30s. But, yeah, if you're the Rams, can you punt on another season?
I mean, you won the Super Bowl, so you knew there were going to be some growing pains down the line. Now, that being said, again, I just don't know what they can do this season, even if you didn't want to get rid of Stafford. The reality of it is you have no weapons to catch up. Arizona, Kyler Murray, revenge tour. They're looking good. Marvin Harrison looking good. When they get healthy, the Niners are better than you. And then you have to deal with those pesky Seahawks.
And Arizona just beat the dog out of you last week. So you're already down a game to Arizona.
Yeah.
Who, I don't know if you anticipated that. All right, we've got make or miss coming up in a smidge. But I got one more quarterback situation I'm going to throw in there before we dive into make or miss on the other side. Plus, I do want to remind all of you that Rip City Drive is bringing the show to Haven Spa and Pool and Hearth in Clackamas Friday, the 27th from 3 to 6. Dwight and Chad will be broadcasting live. You've probably heard the promo. Fill the Viking Spa with new and gently used sports balls for the Boys and Girls Club of the Portland metro area. All the details on the events page at ripcityradio.com. Make or miss next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, 1 hour from now, Mike Parker's going to join the program. Always excited to talk to the voice of the Oregon State Beavs, get his thoughts on what's the temperature in Corvallis. It was obviously it was a warm Civil War. It was short sleeve weather, but also I think it got a little hot. It got a little hot in Corvallis, a little frustration, a little what on earth are we doing? How are we doing on a Thursday? Because just like, they talk about the stages of grief, football fans go through the stages throughout the week, right? It starts with just anger. Well, first off, it's denial. Then it's just the anger. Then it's the bargaining. What's the temperature like in Corvallis? How are the message boards, Brendan? Still fired up?
Yeah.
Still upset?
Yep.
Still dealing with the anger stage right now?
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Fair enough. It's a rivalry game still. It still has that feel. That's still green and yellow on that other side.
Yeah, no, it's, there's definitely a move on mentality. But, again, if you were to poll the fan base, if they want to play that game right now, I'd be willing to bet 80% are like those you-know-whats can kick rocks.
Well, we talked about it with Tyson yesterday. Two very different outcomes in Corvallis and in Seattle, right? Two very different outcomes. But what's funny is, and I understand all the thoughts behind Oregon State fans, especially with the Wake Forest news. That's interesting.
They bailed on Ole Miss for us. I appreciate that.
I can understand that, but
fun road trip too.
To keep the rivalry alive, like you have to want to play the game, and Husky fans first off, they've already turned on Jed Fish 3 weeks. Like Husky fans on Twitter, they've already turned on Jed Fish. He's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Well, he can always go to Florida. He's fine.
Potentially, but they've turned on Jed Fish. But the other thing is, why are we even playing this game? Because that's playing a non-conference rivalry game brings that element in. It's like, we don't have to do this. And it stinks when you lose to your rival, and it's one thing when the conference says, yeah, you guys have to play every single year. It's another when you choose to play, and it's like, why are we signing up for this? For tradition? I wasn't here back then. So it'd be interesting to see how both of those rivalries go when you have to choose to play it as opposed to being forced to play it. But we're going to talk to Mike Parker coming up in a bit. Also, we've got some stuff we saw on the internet. Real quick, though, Brendan, I wanted to do this. I teased it, and I have a bad habit of teasing stuff and then not paying it off. 20 years in this industry, probably should learn that one. I was mentioning quarterback situations in the NFL, and I mentioned the Panthers. I mentioned the Rams. What do the Dolphins do? Well, Tua is going on IR. I haven't heard anything of the because it was just a week ago. Remember, it was a week ago. It was Thursday night last week when he went down, and you saw that thing with his arm again, and you go like, "Oh boy, is he ever going to play football again?" I had those thoughts. I mentioned it. Now I said that's Tua's decision. That's the team's decision. That's his family's decision. It's not self-appointed neurologists on the internet's decision. It's not their decision. But that being said, if you're the Miami Dolphins, now you're going to be without Tua. That's a team that is made to win right now. They're made to win right now. And you might not have Tua for a month. And if you do get him back, again, I am not a self-appointed neurologist, but smart neurologists say the more concussions you get, the easier they seem. You're one bad hit away from it all going away. Now, maybe every NFL team is that way right now. If you're the Dolphins, you start looking around. You kind of have to, right?
Yeah,
but you got to owe it to your organization.
Either that or Skylar Thomas picks up the slack for a few weeks. I mean and they got Tyler Huntley too, who I think is a solid and capable backup. I think Tua's come back. So I know I'm kind of alone in that opinion.
No, I think I'm with you. I think he's coming back as well.
I think I'm being like 4 games.
But I think
Tyler Huntley's a dude. He was good for the Ravens when Lamar was out. Skylar.
I know.
I know. So, I mean, can you hold water for 4 or 5 weeks? I think so. Mike McDaniel, that team, they can just run the ball a million times with A-Chain and Mostert.
I do not remember Skylar Thompson one bit at Kansas State. It's probably because it was the COVID years.
Very underwhelming.
This is the COVID years. I do not remember Skylar Thompson. I had to look it up. And I
Very
go, where's Skylar
underwhelming.
Thompson? I don't remember him at Kansas State at all.
Yeah, it's kind of a reach.
But it was the COVID years, though.
Yeah, kind of a reach. But when he's come into relief too, I think not this year, the year before, I think. Decent in the spot. That's the big thing with backups, Justin. Unless you're Mahomes, you're gonna get hurt in a given year. Whether it's Joe Burrow, whether it's Lamar.
The reason I bring up though the Dolphins is because it's not that Tua's just hurt, right? If this was concussion number 1, or heck, even number 2, all right, he's going to be out. He's going to go through the testing, and we're going to get him back. And we just got to, like you said, keep your head above water because it's still September. At some point, if you're the Dolphins, you got to be like, you are one bad angle of a tackle away from everything falling apart. And I don't know.
That's fair.
An interesting. I just think of those 3 situations in the NFL with quarterbacks. The Dolphins are. Did you see Chase Daniel? I think it was on NFL Network. Proposed a 3-team trade with Matt Stafford going to the Dolphins. The Dolphins sending picks to Carolina, and then Carolina sending Bryce Young to the Rams.
Be interesting.
I think that would be a very bad trade for the Rams, to be perfectly honest with you.
It'd be interesting. I mean, the Rams have they've got Stetson behind Stafford, who they picked up and has looked good the last couple.
That's why I brought up the Rams. I don't know if the Rams are worried too much about this year. I think the Rams are worried about who's going to quarterback them next year.
I'd flip that on its head. If I'm the Dolphins and I'm Mike McDaniel, the quarterback whisperer who basically got the best out of Tua, I'd take Bryce Young.
Offer up a 2nd-round pick for Bryce Young?
Yeah. Mike McDaniel could do something with Bryce Young, man.
I think you only do that.
That's intriguing.
I think you only do that if you think Tua's not coming back.
Agreed.
You only do that.
Agreed.
If you think Tua is going to come back and play quarterback, you don't do anything.
Agreed.
Because you
you ride it out with your backups. Yeah.
Because if Tua comes back and you've made a trade for a quarterback and there was the whole thing with Brian Flores, you can't do that again.
But can I say see Dallas? Dallas all in on Dak Prescott, but they're like, hey, 49ers, we'll take Trey Lance. Just saying.
Hey.
There is precedent.
Very good. Very good point.
Trey Lance like, hey, am I ever going to get to play? No. We made Dak Prescott the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. You're done.
Never going to get to play. And Trey Lance is like, cool.
He's like, remember when I was the 2nd overall pick, guys?
He's like, I'm cool. I'm cool.
he's like, everyone's talking about Bryce. I can't even play.
Dak, you good? Healthy? Good. I won't play today. Not at all.
I mean, Trey
I don't
Lance,
want to get sacked 14 times again.
Poor Trey Lance, man. At least Bryce Young has had 17 games to show. Bryce Young's like, guys, I've played in 4 games.
Now, I understand.
Come on,
It's what you sign up for when you play professional sports, right? It is what you sign up for. But it's one of those things that I talked about, a sociological experiment. Trey Lance didn't say, hey, draft me 2nd overall, right?
Third, my bad.
Or 3rd. He didn't say, hey, 49ers, draft me. He was just like, you drafted me? Okay, I'll go there.
What up?
People act like these quarterbacks go yep, they predetermined that they were going to be a top 5 pick. No, the teams did this. They just showed up and tried their best. But again, it's what you sign up for in professional sports. But Bryce Young didn't say, draft me and not C.J. Stroud, please.
Okay.
He was just like,
fair.
I'll go there.
At least
sure,
that's...
I got a Heisman Trophy.
And that's what I said. At the end of the day, Justin, I think I think Carolina and his situation's probably cooked. I'm not going to say Bryce Young is cooked because he has a freaking Heisman.
He does.
So, again, we'll see. Now, going back to that 2021 draft, Justin, it's a miracle because you look back and you go, knowing what we know now, Justin, you're like, wait, you guys drafted Trey Lance? He played 1 game in 2020. North Dakota State played 1 game. 1.
And I think there were limits on, they didn't have a combine.
And then Zach Wilson.
There were limits on interviews and everything else.
And Zach Wilson went too, and he dominated BYU's weird So it's like knowing what we know now, those 2 dudes are real. Well, okay, I'm not going to say Trey Lance because you just haven't seen him play. Zach Wilson, that dude's a bust. Bryce Young, we don't know.
And again,
Zach Wilson's so bad, though, Justin.
But it's not like Zach Wilson came out of the gate saying that I'm the greatest quarterback ever. I'm going to turn this franchise around. Now, he did say things like, I'm going to make life a living hell, and who had a quarterback they brought in there, and he certainly did not.
You ever heard
so he did say that.
He
but
did also say,
I don't know, I just have I have a smidge of empathy. Now, these guys get a lot of money to deal with this, but I just have a smidge of empathy of like, they didn't ask to be drafted number 3 overall.
Now,
they just were.
It's true. And I will say this, though, Justin, kind of tongue-in-cheek. Zach Wilson may have, there's he may have not asked for that, but he was asking for where the moms were.
He really was. Well, I don't think he had to ask.
I
think that was information just given up to him, unsolicited. All right, let's get to make or miss.
Yeah, don't mind if we do, Justin, because I think we got a this make or miss is the best one in a couple weeks.
Whoa!
Like
okay.
we got a couple
setting the bar high.
Yeah, we got a couple really good ones.
All
right. So let's start here because we haven't mentioned it enough. That one play sums up the Mariners season pretty perfectly.
Kind of does. It really kind of does.
And I say that not funny.
No, I say it kind of funny.
I mean,
but
it's horrible because I genuinely feel bad for the Mariners, Justin.
Oh,
Their fan base finally got a taste, and it's ripped away from them.
Yeah, but that's also an organization that, if you look at the guy, Jerry DiPoto, who's been in charge, and he has put together one postseason team in 10 years.
You're coming at DiPoto now.
I kind of always have been. Now, when he first took over, they were in a bit of a mess when DiPoto first came over, and I criticized him when I worked there, and I continued as I work here. One of the problems was the Mariners never ripped it down to the studs soon enough. They waited too long, and now they finally did get it figured out a couple years ago with the postseason run, but now, like, DiPoto's been there for 10 years. 10 years, and he's put together one postseason run. And you fire the manager? And you don't fire the GM? And not only do you not fire him, but as an organization, you say, oh, he shall be our GM next year and well into the future. It's like, that guy hasn't put together a team that can win. So the Mariners get what they get because they kept DiPoto and fired Service as if Scott Service was the one up there striking out at a unbelievably high level. Now, here's the other thing that I love about sports. Sports at times is chaotic, but sports at times, Brendan, is poetic. And all season long, the Mariners have not been able to make contact with the baseball on the bat. They strike out. I believe they lead the league in strikeouts, or they're one of the top 3 in the league in strikeouts. I may be pulling that stat out of my backside, but they strike out at a clip that is higher than any other team or most teams in Major League Baseball. And then you find another way to lose where a player almost gets hit with a bat off of a strikeout. They've been biggest problem with the Mariners this year. They strike out too much. How'd they lose last night? Not only did the player strike out, but he struck out so bad that the bat went flying down the third base line, froze your runner on third enough to get picked off a third, and then there's your ball game, and the Yankees win the division. Poetry. It is Casey at the bat couldn't have come up with a better poem
I'll say this.
than what happened at T-Mobile Park last night.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I'll say this too. It's a broken record, but great place to watch ball game, T-Mobile Park.
It's a beautiful.
It's so much fun.
It's a beautiful ballpark, and I think that's maybe where some Mariner fans are frustrated. The Mariners ballpark is one of the best in Major League Baseball, and I've been to Yankee Stadium. I've been to where else have I been? I've been in Atlanta. I've been to Pittsburgh. There wasn't a baseball game going on, but I've seen T-Mobile Park is beautiful. I've been to, I don't know what it is in San Francisco anymore. Is it Oracle now? Or it used to be AT&T Park?
Yeah, I think it is Oracle Park now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, I've been there. T-Mobile Park is as a 25-year-old stadium. Holds up so well. It's beautiful. It's a great place. The game atmosphere at a Mariner game is the best. The game day staff, and I'm biased because I got to know a bunch of them, some of the best in all of Major League Baseball. It is as good of a fan experience, and you talked about it when you went up there. It is as good of a fan experience as you are going to get anywhere. And they just can't put a product on the field.
Well, I'll say this.
And I get that frustration.
Yeah, I do too. I'll say this positively, Justin. The Mariners were left for dead when they fired Scott Service, and they have made a push under
Dan Wilson. Dan the man Wilson.
Yeah, so that they have made a push, and I'll say that gave him some optimism. Is Justin? You remember when you and me and Chad we're doing a mailbag, and we're like, remember when the Mariners were leading their division and they were
by like 7 games,
and then we're like, oh bleep.
But it was like, that happens in baseball, right? You get that fool's gold, and then the team makes a run.
But that's kind of I think going back to what Mariner fans' frustrations, that's commonplace, right? So that all being said, that sums up the Mariners season pretty perfectly.
It's a poetic, because of course it was on a strikeout. Of course the bat went flying. And of course, of all the players that it could have affected, of course it was Julio Rodriguez, who Mariners thought 2 years ago, we have got ourselves a bona fide superstar. I remember we talked to our good friend Curtis Rogers, who does radio up there in Seattle. And I said, who's the champ? Now that Russell Wilson, because Russell Wilson ran that town for 8 years. He was the heavyweight champion of all sports figures in Seattle. And then we were sitting there going like, all right, Russ is out. Who is it? He said, it's Julio. Julio Rodriguez in the summer that he had a couple years ago. And then he really hasn't quite lived up to that. And then, of course, it was Julio who would get picked off a third. Of course it would be him. Because baseball's poetic.
DK Metcalf's like, I'll enter the conversation here.
I think he's close.
Yeah, he's like, I'll enter this conversation. Anyway, let's see if we can get to at least one, and then maybe close out with the fun one. But this one will be pretty quick, Justin. But it's very worthwhile because we talked about this, and I think this will be key in this particular show. FX nailed Urban Meyer, an American Sports Story.
So I watched episode 1 of the Aaron Hernandez show on FX. Urban Meyer, they got that one right. Aaron Hernandez, it's tough. It's tough to watch it because the guy is like my size. Now I'm I'm not slight, but I'm average dude. I am about $185 and I'm 5'10" on a good day. That's about how big they got Aaron Hernandez. And
that's tough.
They do like tricks, like
filmmaking angles and stuff like that. Yeah.
Tom Cruise, right? Tom Cruise is tiny. And Tom Cruise looks like a normal-sized guy on film because they know how to do all... Like, they didn't do any of that. Like, the scene where, like, he's going up and accepting the Pop Warner Award, and it's like, whoever was giving him the award is, like, taller than... Aaron Hernandez was a behemoth of a dude.
I'll say this,
but I get lost in the story a little bit. But,
he does...
But whoever got the Urban Meyer casting... they nailed it.
Yeah, I was so interested in this. Again,
these shows are hard though.
They are, and
because I know like Tim Tebow is being played by someone.
Patrick Schwarzenegger.
Someone I looked on the IMDb. Someone's going to be playing Tom Brady, right?
Yes.
Somebody is going to be playing Robert Kraft, and it's like those people are still in our lives.
Yeah, so I did a little.
So it's a little weird to watch.
No, it's true. It is, and it is interesting when you have people who are actively in the lives and. I did, like I said, I fell into a rabbit hole, and I'm like, I know this actor, and I actually know the actor who plays Belichick from some other things. So that's kind of helping a little bit. But like you said, the player cast for Aaron is tough. It looks, facial expression and that whole thing looks just like him. It's just the physique that's a little tougher. But man, I watched all 2.5 hours of that Florida Gators puff piece with Urban Meyer. That dude nailed the acting of Urban Meyer.
He's got Urban Meyer down, but just like when you watch the Clipped, the Donald Sterling one,
that was worse in my opinion.
Well, let's see. Let's wait till Tom. Let's wait till we see Tom Brady.
You're right. Fair.
But that was the problem. Is like, that's Blake Griffin. It's like that ain't Blake Griffin.
Yeah, that was bad. And
that ain't Chris Paul either.
Yeah, that was tough. All right, let's close out with this one. Fun, real quick, as we get out of here, Justin. As it turns out. Wake Forest told Lane Kiffin, we're breaking up because we're already dating Oregon State.
Of course it would be the Oregon State home and home. I'd pay $1 million to get out of playing Ole Miss to go play Oregon State.
I think I would too. They were like, hey, Kiffin, see ya.
Yeah, it is. I'm fascinated to see what happens ultimately with scheduling. With the expanded playoff to see exactly who's going to be scheduling tough, who's going to be scheduling cupcakes, who's going to try to and when you get your conference schedules in advance, do you And I think Wake Forest took a look at the future ACC schedule and
They're
said, I don't want to play Ole Miss. Let's go to
Yeah,
Corvallis.
and
So
I saw a whole bunch, and this was interesting. We'll close on this. A whole bunch of Beaver fans, Justin, were like, pack it up. Let's go to North Carolina.
Enjoy it. Have
there
fun.
are a lot of Beaver fans who were like, wow, North Carolina, that's cool.
Is that
We need to play
Winston-Salem, I believe?
Yeah.
Have fun.
yeah.
Have fun in Winston-Salem, kids. All right. We have got stuff we saw on the internet to wrap up hour number 2 next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, there's an old saying, and I know I like to bring up old sayings a lot, but there's an old saying, right? You don't want to know how the sausage is made. Two things you don't ever want to see them make: laws and sausages. That was an old West Wing line. It was probably a line before the West Wing, but it's essentially saying, the product ultimately is good, but the way it goes about is a little bit messy. You don't want to know. And obviously the Pittsburgh Steelers are 2-0, and the Pittsburgh Steelers have 2 wins on the road, and the Pittsburgh Steelers have 2 wins with their backup quarterback, technically. But it's been ugly. It's been ugly. But you look on the win-loss sheet, Steelers 2-0. And Mike Tomlin asked about some of the ugliness. Mike Tomlin asked about the process and everything else, and kind of referenced you don't want to know how the sausage is made, but he did it in his own special way. And then Dan Orlovsky, whom I like, on ESPN, took the Mike Tomlin quote to a whole nother level that I think will bring up some passion from our listeners. Let's hear from Mike Tomlin and then Dan Orlovsky afterwards.
There's just certain things as a leader that I talk to the collective about that I have zero intentions of sharing with the larger public, because it's about our collective and how we come together and how we appreciate and support one another. And, I can't give you all the ingredients to the hot dog. You might not like it.
Don't build off a hall.
Yeah. All right, reset. One, I'm going to get that as a T-shirt. I think it's in reference to how the sausage is made type of thing. Couple things. Hot dogs are better on the grill than they are broiled or boiled.
I agree. I'll give you that. 100%.
Broiled. 2, they're actually at their best when they are cut into small pieces and added into macaroni and cheese.
Ridiculous. Oh, that's childish.
3, if you really want to have a great hot dog, you grill it, put a piece of American cheese on the roll, then that, and ketchup.
Wow, I've never heard of worse ways to eat a hot dog.
Buddy, you never cut up a hot dog and put it in mac and cheese?
Buddy, I haven't.
No, never.
Not even
Buddy, that sounds terrible.
I don't think I've ever even heard of it.
Well,
Dan, you eat like a child. Okay,
I live an hour from here.
Dan's gonna be like the soccer mom bringing in snacks.
Okay, first off,
There are a lot of problems. I
have a question for you, I guess I should start with. I thought everybody had to cut up hot dogs and macaroni and cheese. I thought everybody did that. That was a staple in like 1988, 1990. Everybody did. We go over to friends' houses, right? Mac and cheese, cut up hot dogs in it. That was a normal thing. Now, that's not the best way to eat a hot dog, as Dan Orlovsky said. That's the best way when you are 7 to have mac and cheese. But I don't think I'm crazy.
No, it's
here.
a Gen X thing. And
Really?
I don't mean to. So I'll say this.
Okay. All right.
Even now as adults.
Dude, cut up hot dogs in the mac and...
Even now as adults, when my parents will be like on a random Saturday, they'll be like, "Oh, make some macaroni," and they're gonna cook a hot dog with. They're gonna put it in there.
Yeah,
100%. Mom and Dad have done that more times in the last 10 years than I
That's
can even
because your
count.
mom and dad, they know.
Now
They know about that.
Justin, to use a word
That's not the best way to eat a hot
Now,
dog. I have other thoughts on that.
to
but
use a word.
I was shocked that the rest of the panel looked at him like, that's how you, it's like,
So
I thought everybody did that.
To use a word that is very familiar to you, if you were to ask me, my sister, and probably both my brothers, if they would put hot dogs in their mac, probably say that's icky.
Well, I think it's awesome. I thought it was awesome. And again, I don't have children.
The idea of a hot dog ruining my mac and cheese is just sacrilege. Like that is, I would never let. And I like a good hot dog, but I would never let the cheese
Have you even
touch.
tried it?
It just looks gross. It looks gross. It's the appearance, man. It's the appearance.
The moment like I became like my parents, because again, I don't have children, but like it was the whole, I don't like that. You're just saying that, just try it. And here I am going like, Brendan, you got to just try it.
No, I'm
that
not
was,
saying I am right. I am a fully admitted stubborn foods, weirdo over here.
You were an incredibly picky eater. I thought my wife was the pickiest eater I met, and then I met you, and you put Kelly to shame. And so the idea that the panel didn't recognize the hot dogs in the mac. Now,
the next thing is
the fact that he said that's the best way to eat a hot dog. No.
Do you agree with grill?
However, there's a lot to unpack there, and I have just about a minute and a half. Grilled hot dogs are better than boiled hot dogs. Yes.
Including Costco ones?
Aren't Costco ones grilled?
I think they're boiled.
I thought they were grilled on a flat top. I don't know. Or maybe they're on the roller. I don't know. You want a really good hot dog, you get that 3 hours on a roller. But
Simply held in hot water till they reach 165. So that's tough.
boy, that throws a wrench.
It does, because it's the only good boiled hot dog I've ever had in my life. Period.
See, now,
That's tough.
the best way to eat like a sausage, like a kielbasa, is technically to do both. You boil it first to cook it, then you grill it off on the grill to get a good char.
Okay.
And then the casing, you get a little snap to the casing.
Okay.
I'm getting hungry right now just talking about it.
I like a good hot dog.
Now, I
Justin.
love hot dog. I will eat a microwave hot dog. I will eat a boiled hot dog. I will eat a grilled hot dog. I love a good hot dog. Don't get me wrong. Now,
so you're just saying I'm bat crazy for not liking macaroni and hot dogs. That's where we're at.
The fact that you wouldn't have even entertained it.
It may have been put in front of me as a kid. I sure didn't eat it. So I tell you that much.
Now, let's go to the other. The fact that he said the best way to eat a hot dog is to put a slice of American cheese down with ketchup. I've grown up because I used to be very food shaming of like, no, you don't do that. And I'm like, nah, you like what you like. That one.
It's tough. That's a tough sell, Justin.
Because I am not a ketchup on a hot dog guy.
Neither am I.
But
It's mustard
as
or
I
bust.
have said with pineapple on pizza, if nobody liked it, they wouldn't put the ketchup out there. You know what I mean? Like if nobody liked ketchup on a hot dog, they wouldn't put it out there as an option. It's there. Somebody uses the ketchup, and clearly it's not for me, but you do. The slice of American cheese?
Yeah, that's unique. I'll say this. I wonder now, because we know Patrick Mahomes and his obsession with putting ketchup on mac and cheese, he must put hot dogs in there too, right? That's a great question. We need to figure that out. Patrick, did you know
mac
Patrick
and
Mahomes?
cheese with hot dogs.
And ketchup.
And
I wouldn't eat it, but it's not the craziest
it probably isn't that bad.
thing. Yeah, I agree.
It sounds bad because it's different, but like I've said before, at some point somebody put peanut butter and jelly together, and I'm sure somebody said that's disgusting, and it turns out no, it was awesome.
Okay, so
somebody had to put honey and mustard together and go, this is really awesome.
Yeah.
So
let me Orlovsky this for you, Justin. I give you an awesome hot dog.
Mm-hmm.
It's been grilled. I throw a slice of pepper jack on there with some mustard. Do you eat it?
Oh, 100%. I hammer that thing.
So the slice of cheese is not that weird.
For me, and again, like a coffee, a hot dog is a very personal thing. Hot dog, mustard, relish, sauerkraut if they got it, baby. All right, we have got hour number 3 coming up next, 620 Rip City Radio.
8 a.m. on a Thursday. Brendan Slaughter with you for Rip City Mornings. Carolina has temporarily moved on from number 1 pick Bryce Young, but the Panthers say they have no intention of trading him, and he could be the franchise quarterback still. So we'll see what happens with the Red Rocket, Andy Dalton, in the next couple weeks. Elsewhere in the NFL, the Jets and New England are tonight's Thursday night game on Amazon Prime, with the two teams squaring off in Jersey. And Eli Manning leads a group of 16 players, including Luke Kuechly, Terrell Suggs, Adam Vinatieri, and more, who are the first-time nominees for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Coming up in about 20 minutes, we're going to catch up with Mike Parker, talk a little Purdue Boilermakers, much more. Rip City Mornings.
By the way, and again, this is a small sample size, but in our universe, in the ways that we are able to communicate, both on the internet and through text messaging, Brendan, I think you're in the minority on this hot dogs and mac and cheese thing.
It wouldn't surprise me. I take the L.
You are it. Well,
I own
it's not an L.
I
It's
own
just
it.
it's.
I own it. I had members of my own family tell me it was good. So, you know,
I've had text
Yeah.
messages. I've had people on the X app, and your family is texting you as well.
Yeah, I got Dad chiming in too, saying that it's all quality. So again, but Dad should know, like, Dad should know why Brendan is the way that he is, Justin.
Did you just go third person?
A
Just go
little
third
bit.
person on me there.
Yeah.
Let's see. Larry, our good friend on Twitter, says,
What's up, Larry?
Isn't hot dog and mac and cheese the first thing you learned to cook as a kid? It's true.
Just mac and cheese. Just mac and cheese.
First thing I learned to cook as a kid was scrambled eggs. I learned how to cook scrambled eggs. At least that's the first memory I have of what I learned how to cook. Then yeah, hot dog. See, again, it was funny because before the internet, the way that your family cooked stuff or made stuff, you just thought that's what it was in the entire world. And you know, my parents had 3 kids. They were both teachers. My dad was a coach. We all played sports. Brendan, hot dogs were cooked in the microwave. We don't got time to boil a pot of water or to fire up a grill. If you want a hot dog, you put those bad boys in the microwave. And so my entire life, most of my childhood, it was like, yeah, you cook hot dogs in the microwave. And then you go to your buddy's house, and your buddy's like, yeah, we're going to have some hot dogs. And your buddy's mom starts a pot of boiling water, and they boil that, and you're like, whoa, what is that? And then you realize, oh, boiled hot dogs might be better than the microwave hot dogs.
Yeah, I think.
But you know what I mean? Like my entire
totally.
life, or most of my childhood is like, hot dogs are made in the microwave.
Yeah, I can.
There's another way to make them?
Yeah, I can probably also attest my my not like for hot dogs and mac, Justin, because again, this shouldn't surprise you. I just continue to reveal information that Justin could just turn around and just attack.
Look, hey, look, we owe it to our audience to be open and honest, because there might be somebody out there, much like you, who is like nodding along in the car going like, you preach, Brendan. Hot dogs and mac and cheese is disgusting, which I disagree with. But there's somebody out there.
Well,
this is why we open up and be honest with our audience.
I didn't say disgusting, said icky. just
now we're splitting hairs here.
We are. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I think a big part of it is, Justin, I didn't really like eating hot dogs until I was a teenager.
I love hot
14, 15. Like, as a kid, you know, maybe as like a little kid where I can't remember, but like most of my younger years, like it was a cookout, hamburgers, hot dogs. It was tough for Brendan to eat growing up.
You just ate chips all day, didn't you? It's like, I'll be over here where the chips
A lot
are.
of sides, you know, a lot of potatoes, a lot of mac salad, you know, stuff like that. And then
Like,
it's.
hey,
then
what did you have? I ate chips. That's what I had.
I mean, and the crazy part is it's not that far from the truth. But
I-
that all being said, yeah, as I got older, I'm like, darn, and I'll say this: it was a Costco. If it was a Costco hot dog that
See,
became
now
my first love with a hot dog.
Going back, so the reason we brought this up, play that clip again, because people that are just joining the show going like, why are these guys? It's Thursday of a football week. We got an NFL game tonight. Well, it started with Mike Tomlin saying, I'm not going to tell you all. Well, I'm going to let Mike Tomlin say, because I've heard a lot of Mike Tomlin sayings, obviously, because I'm a Steelers
We do not
fan.
care.
And yeah, we do not care. I think he said, peel your eyelids off. You don't want to miss anything one time. He created the term, the standard is the standard, and all that. Here's a new one. This is a new one from Mike Tomlin, and then this is where the hot dog discussion went.
There's just certain things as a leader that I talk to the collective about that I have zero intentions of sharing with the larger public, because it's about our collective and how we come together and how we appreciate and support one another. And, I can't give you all the ingredients to the hot dog. You might not like it.
Don't build off a
That's so
Yeah,
good.
yeah. All right, reset. One, I'm gonna get as
Thank
a
you.
T-shirt. I think it's in reference to how the sausage is made, type of thing. Couple things. Hot dogs are better on the grill than they are broiled or boiled.
I agree.
I'll give you that.
100%.
Broiled.
Two, they're actually at their best when they are cut into small pieces and added into macaroni and cheese.
Ridiculous.
Oh, that's childish.
Three, if
Oh
you
my
really
gosh.
want to have a great hot dog, you grill
That
it,
is
put a
disgusting.
piece of American cheese on the roll, then that, and ketchup.
Wow. I've
You
never
say
heard
a
of
hot dog?
I've never heard of worse
Macaroni and
ways to
cheese?
eat a hot dog.
Buddy, you
And
never
cut
cut up a
up.
hot dog and put it in mac and cheese?
Buddy, I have.
No, never.
Not even
Literally.
Buddy,
kids
that
have.
sounds terrible.
I don't think I've ever even heard of it.
Well,
Dan, you
What are
eat
you guys
like a
doing tomorrow?
child. Okay, Dan's
I live
bringing
an hour from here.
Dan's going to be like the soccer mom bringing in snacks.
All right, so this is how we got off on this discussion. Because there's two things in that. We talked obviously a lot about the hot dogs and the mac and cheese. I would have agreed with the grilling of a hot dog is the best way to have a hot dog. Now, again, if you just want, a quick dog or two, like as a gap filler, you know what I mean? Just like, hey, I've got 4 minutes, I need some lunch, grab me a couple hot dogs. Firing up the grill and, letting it heat up and everything else, I could understand. But, Brendan, you might have thrown a big wrench into my thought process when you told me that Costco hot dogs, which
100% boiled.
they are boiled.
I knew that for a long time, and I'm like,
All right,
odd.
let's tier this, because
Yeah, I agree.
I've said this before. Much like Thanksgiving dinner is special because it's Thanksgiving dinner, the place of it and the timing of it matters. I got into this debate with Joe Fan one time. Joe Fan, when we both worked at NBC Sports Northwest, he was like, Thanksgiving dinner is trash. You never eat it any other time of the year. If it was any good, you would eat it all the time. And I go, it matters in the time. Just like a corn dog is not something you would eat on a Tuesday, but you go to a state fair, you're going to have a corn dog. And it's just all. Does that mean corn dogs are bad? Because you only eat them at the state fair? Absolutely not. I ride for corn dogs. So hot dogs are better time and place. So let's rank them. There is hot dog at the ballpark, undefeated. Undefeated hot dog at the ballpark. Here's where we're fighting for second place. Hot dog at the picnic. Hot dog at Costco. Brendan, you've gone camping. Brandon on Twitter came and said hot dog over campfire.
It's true.
Hot dog over campfire.
It's a poll.
So how would you am I missing a hot dog setting? Ballpark undefeated. It's the best.
I did crush a Mariner dog. That was so good.
You would never have the Seattle dog, would you, though? Do you know what the Seattle dog is?
No, I don't.
Cream cheese and sriracha.
Oh yeah, I would. Oh,
You
yeah.
would, that's
Oh, I love putting toppings. I everything you mentioned, just sauerkraut, onion, all of
Okay.
it, man. I'm game for most of that stuff.
okay. So Seattle dog is, and I don't know if they even make them in the stadium. You got to go to the little carts on the
Oh.
outside of the ballpark, but it's cream cheese and sriracha.
Yeah, I'd mess with that.
Outside of T-Mobile, then Safeco Field, it's the best. I don't know if I would have it any other place. Just like when I was at Wrigley and I had a Chicago dog, which you get
The sesame or the poppy seed bun.
the Chicago dog where you get the tomato and the neon green relish and the celery salt. You get the celery salt on there. Oh,
Yeah, that one would
had
be.
that at Wrigley is so good.
Yeah, that one would be a little bit like because we, honestly, Justin, this goes back to when my younger years when I worked at Sonic and we had all those hot dogs, right?
Oh,
Chili
yeah.
cheese. We had the Chicago dog. We had the New York style dog.
Can I throw a hot take out there? Chili dog's overrated.
Probably is.
Chili dog's overrated.
Yeah, it probably is.
I love a bowl of chili, and I love a hot dog. I don't need them together. Don't need them together.
That is, I think, the first way I ever had a hot dog.
Was having a chili dog?
If I cover it in chili, I can see if I kind of like it or
now,
not.
Now, somebody gives me a chili dog, your boy's going to eat it. Like, don't get me wrong. But I would, if you were to ask me what would I prefer, keep the chili in the bowl.
Yeah,
and just give me the hot dog.
Yeah, but no, for sure. Like I'm totally game for cool toppings, cool hot dog buns, and all that.
So ballpark hot dog is number one.
And I did notice.
Does Costco hot dog trump picnic hot dog?
Maybe best is a good word. Does it best the other
No. I'm not letting one person disrupt my vocabulary. I shall not. No, everybody knows what I mean. I'm not letting one person. No, I refuse.
Sorry, I'm just laughing.
We've called
over
it
here.
Trump for a long time before and shall after. Maybe not after.
You want my Trump card, Justin?
That's what it was called.
I know.
All right.
I know. Anyway, back to your point. Yes. Sorry.
Does it rank higher? Because now I haven't had a Costco hot dog in a minute. Ate too many of them in my 20s, got fat. Because I don't know how to control my portions. Used to eat them 2 at a time. 1 is enough. If you want to eat 2, though, you do you. But I think, boy, the picnic hot dog. So if you offer like hamburger hot dog at a picnic, I go, yes, please. Give me both.
I love Costco, but it's not the winner here. It's a solid best you can get going out. That's not a game day setting. But I would ride for not even.
Go picnic dog.
Picnic goes 3, game day 1, Costco 2.
Is camping same as picnicking?
Yes. I'll throw that in the same category.
All
And
right.
I go game day because there's something, whether it's even if I decided to brave the crowds this last week, Justin, and go, you know what? I appreciate the nice box lunch that Oregon State provides now, but I'm going to go down and get me a hot dog. It'd probably be a really good Beaver hot dog sitting there enjoying it on game day.
At the Seattle Seahawks games up in their press box when I was up there, they would have, because obviously NFL games start early, they would have a breakfast buffet. But at halftime, they had a big old thing of hot dogs. And boy, did I enjoy those. Boy, oh boy, did I. Free hot dogs. Trump all of them. Hey, what's the best kind of hot dog? Put a steamer tray of free ones out there in a hospitality room. Yes, please. I may or may not have the record for hot dogs eaten at Matthew Knight Arena press room, and I know the number dies with me. But I don't think anybody in the Matthew Knight Arena press room ate more hot dogs than I did because I was poor at the time. I know the number. That number's going to die with me.
You take free meals where you can get them, Justin.
Dude, everybody thought when I was in Eugene, like, man, this guy is such a go-getter. He's covering. I'm like, no, there's a free meal there, and I have a press pass.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm poor, so I'm covering all of it. Why are you at Oregon versus Arkansas Pine Bluff on a Tuesday night, Justin? There's going to be hot dogs after, and I don't have anything in my fridge right now. All right, you know what? Wonder how Mike Parker eats his hot dog.
I'd have to ask.
Should we find out?
We
Coming
should.
up on the other side. Might be more pleasant to talk about than what happened at Reser Stadium on Saturday. But moving forward as the Beavs get ready to take on another Big Ten opponent. That feels weird to say. In the Purdue Boilermakers, we talked to Mike Parker on the show next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, so the September Civil War last week came and went. Oregon gets the victory. They move on to the bye week. Oregon State now trying to brush off the loss at Reser Stadium. And unlike Civil Wars past, well, they got another game to prepare for. And we've talked about it obviously a ton last week about what it was going to feel like there at the stadium, and also the difference in the lack of finality because, again, after taking the loss, Oregon State, well, they got no time to, to sit around and think about it. They got to get ready for the Purdue Boilermakers who come to Reser Stadium on Saturday. The man who's going to be on the call, friend of the program, back in his normal spot here on a Thursday, Mike Parker back on the Big Show. Good morning, Mike. How we doing?
Good morning. Good to be with you, Justin. Nice to hear Brendan's voice bringing me on, and it's something. I mean, I'm not quite as excited about talking about what unfolded, particularly in the second half Saturday in the rivalry game, but there were enough things in the first half against a superior team, a better team, a team that. The thing you see with coaches, Ryan Gunderson, Trent Bray, and others, they stop short. They've got to be careful if they can't go to the discrepancy in talent card too often. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's just not something coaches can say or should say because they've got to coach up their guys for the next game and continue to believe in them and build them up. And so Trent Bray and Ryan Gunderson have talked about failure to execute, to not execute the fundamentals and do the things that they know they're capable of doing, which they did more of in the first half on the offensive side. But that's the same sort of, and I get it. They need to build themselves back up, as you said. They have no time to wallow in what unfolded in that second half. So they've been having a good week, and meanwhile in West Lafayette, the Purdue players and coaches are in a similar mode. I mean, their loss was far worse, the worst loss in 137 years of Boilermaker football, 66-7 to Notre Dame. So you'll have two teams coming in Saturday who got to pick themselves up. And I'm glad it's out here and not back there, but I expect the Beavers to bounce back in a pretty big way.
Well, and that's where it gets interesting, Mike. And I'm curious how kind of Trent Bray both handled it in-house and out-of-house because, yeah, you hear coaches, and we've heard both locally and just across the football world, Mike, of like, hey, you have to treat every game as if it's the only game. You can't worry about the next game. And then usually that is a culmination into the rivalry game at the end of the year. And you can kind of put all your eggs into that basket because there is usually a finality to it. And you can kind of go for broke in that rivalry game. Well, now it's very, very different because you can't put all of your eggs and you can't put all of your emotion into it. It's still a rivalry. It's still, those colors, especially with coaches on either staff that have a history with this game. But it's week 3, and you still have an awful lot of football to play for. I'm curious to see how kind of Trent Bray handled it. I'm assuming much like any other regular season game, which is, you know what, you get that 24-hour rule and then have to worry about on to the next.
Exactly. And in that sense, the process is no different than the San Diego State game, which the Beavers won 21-0. You have a Sunday to come in and for rehab and treatment on injuries and beginnings of the new week. You take Monday off. You practice again on Tuesday like any other week. But you're right. I mean, the placement of the rivalry game, far different than it ever used to be, the earliest ever, et cetera. Been talked about a lot, and I think puzzled over. And people want, it didn't feel quite right. All of those things have been talked about. I mean, I've read stories and even heard them, I think, validated by people who experienced it, that I think both programs, and I know for sure within Oregon State over the years, they would have a play or a session set aside during every week of the season leading up to the Civil War. Okay, stop. Here, it's Oregon time now. We're going to practice this play, these plays. Then we'll get back to our preparation for Stanford or Cal or Washington State or whomever else they might be playing. But there would be a set-aside designated period leading all year long, as you're talking about, culminating in the Civil War at the end of the year. Well, the end of the year ain't here. We got a long way to go. And I think for the Beavers, that's the good news. That wasn't the end of the year. To end the year on that kind of note, I still think this team has a lot of wins in them, and they start that process on Saturday against Purdue. And I think, if you come out of September at 3-1, heading into a bye, I think all things considered, that might be what a lot of folks thought the record was going to be going in, and you still have a lot to play for sure.
Mike Barker, the voice of the Oregon State Beavers, joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. Mike, we talked about this earlier in the show. I think coaches, while they are compensated incredibly well, they have got more on their plate now with NIL, with transfer portal, on top of what was already on their plate, and with conference realignment and everything else. There's more on coaches' plates than maybe ever before, and I think it's an important week for Trent Bray in the fact that just on top of, you get your tail kicked. Coming back from that's awful tough, and coaches have to find ways to do that. And then the other part of it is not saying anybody on this Oregon State roster, because I don't know enough about it, but it is a reality in 2024 in college football that when certain things don't go the way you thought, some guys start looking elsewhere. Some guys start thinking about transferring to keep that team intact. I think that's going to be a huge task for Trent Bray this week. And as for all teams, but just locally, kind of a new thing on the plate for coaches to worry about now.
That is, I think it's something more for them, perhaps to worry about than, again, in a given week in terms of trying to manage a roster. I'm not sure that he's at the point yet of having to have meetings with guys who maybe I'm not so sure I want to be here after. I don't know if that type of stuff is going on, but I think there may be fretting and concerns about that constantly. But I do also think, Justin, that things don't change a lot from week to week in terms of what Coach Bray and his staff are doing. They're still first and foremost football coaches who put practice plans together and study film with their players and with each other and then execute during a given week those practice plans and try to, work on getting stuff put in for that game plan for that game, and in this case, Purdue, with a lot of people outside of that process who are working on the other kinds of things that you're talking about, maybe having those sorts of conversations, maybe even alerting someone to, hey, I've got this came up this week, or, I know that I was hearing from Jonathan last year during the course of the year he would just tell me, well, Damian got, so many calls this week from other programs. I mean, that kind of stuff would come across his plate. And so you're right about the different things that coaches do have to deal with and maybe even try to temper and try to keep everybody together on the same page more now than ever in the world that we're in. But I don't think it effectively hampers or hinders the process of a typical week of practice any more in 2024 than 1977. I think it's more of a reality and a concern that they, I don't think Jonathan would have told me something like that unless, he was thinking about it a little bit and he himself, as we have found out, wasn't necessarily, as that season played out near the end, not thinking about his own future and his own path. So these are crazy times. I don't know how much of an Eagles guy you are. I know Chad in the afternoon. He likes them. I get a sense that he and Dwight like them. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Is that your sense of things, Justin?
100% my sense of things, yes.
Now, are you a fan? Are you a Don Henley Eagles guy?
I got into the Eagles, believe it or not, in 1994. I was 14 years old, and I got the Hell Freezes Over remastered old songs album, and then very much had a little you do in high school, Mike. You just have like a little phase to try to set yourself apart from others, and I was like, yeah, I'm into the Eagles. Desperado, Which A Woman, and then of course you can't talk the Eagles and not bring up Seinfeld, whereas Desperado was his song, and Elaine can't be her song either.
I'm glad to know that backstory on your own experience. I was thinking of, and this isn't the Eagles proper, of course, but Don Henley's line in a good song, I think it's The Heart of the Matter, where he, in his album, this is the end of the innocence or whatever. I can't, but he says, these times are so uncertain. There's a yearning undefined and people filled with rage. Now he puts those things together, the uncertainty, the people filled with rage, a yearning undefined. All of that stuff, to me, written in, I think, by he, J.D. Souther, and Mike Campbell back in '89, is still apropos. These times are so uncertain. That line, it goes through my mind all the time when I read every day in The Athletic or wherever else, ESPN.com, Yahoo Sports, about what's happening in our college football world. That's why I'm glad you began with, well, the Beavers are getting ready to try to bounce back from a loss and play Purdue. I mean, those are the time-honored themes. You win, you try to build and win again. You lose, you lose badly. That, I'm glad those patterns are still in place, because on the outside of it, these times are so uncertain, more than ever in college football. So this week, while I'm preparing to get ready for Purdue, and there's some interesting storylines with Ryan Walters' program and the Boilermakers coming out here and all of that. I mean, I'm excited about the game. It has an intriguing matchup and some real seasoned history for both programs that we'll allude to. But at the same time, when I open my phone and start looking around, story after story about what's the next move for the Mountain West, what is the Pac-12 going to do? Is Memphis and Tulane, are they going to leave the AAC and come to the – I mean, I spend as much time with those kinds of storylines doing a talk show as you do and as we do. And you know what I'm saying? The game itself, I'm glad the game itself is at the end of a week that keeps our focus on the next event and the next game. So with all of the uncertainty and with all of the things that we've alluded to with the transfer portal and tampering that goes on, no question it goes on. You just you try to stay as much as locked in as possible, and I think Trent Bray, sets that example better than anybody. He's a football guy, all football, keeps his guys on track, and I think together, and the culture here is solid and strong. They'll bounce back, and I think stay together. Who knows what happens during the course of a year at the end of the year, but I think everybody here is pretty well locked in to try to beat Purdue Saturday.
It's funny the memories that get triggered, Mike, when you bring up certain songs, certain artists. Don Henley, "End of the Innocence." My parents were both teachers, so for about a half hour before I caught the bus to school, I would go over to my next door or my neighbors across the street, and the Shockies, and Mama Shockey got ready with VH1 on full blast every morning. So I would hear Don Henley's "End of the Innocence" in between Billy Ocean, "Get Out of My Dreams" and into my car, and probably a little Aha, "Take on Me" every single morning before about 4th or 5th grade.
Justin, I got to tell you, as long as we're sharing these, in 1972, I was still in Southern California, going to Los Altos High School in Hacienda Heights. Rob Hurdle, by the way, was the quarterback for our high school football team, and he went on to play for USC and in the NFL with the Cincinnati Bengals. And I went to all the games that year, and we won the CIF section championship that year. It was one of the best years of Los Altos high school football ever, and I'm the young ninth grader getting into that high school football scene. But we would have pep rallies every Friday, and the song that would play at every pep rally before every game, because it looked like we were going to be pretty good. And I hear this song now, and it just takes you back to those moments. And the song, I laugh when I think about the lyrical content. The Raspberries. I don't know if you know this from '72. "Go All the Way, Please Go All the Way" by the Raspberries, 1972. The Raspberries, in that pleading of "please go all the way" in that song, are talking about a different kind of go all the way, go all the way, not necessarily to a CIF championship. And yet, here we all are with the teachers and the coaches and everybody, and that song's blaring and playing about going all the way. And we appropriated that song for our football team's quest for a championship, but I would sit there and listen to the lyrical content and think, even though I was 14, I guess I was thinking a lot about that kind of thing then, and thinking, I think he's referring the Raspberries are. They're talking about something else, not high school football.
Not exactly with the big Friday night matchup in the CIF. Mike Parker is the voice of the Oregon State Beavers, joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. Before we do get a little bit too late, Mike, you are correct. There's a football game to be played. We should be talking about said football game. It's a fairly significant game. As weird as it is to say, another Big Ten school coming to Reser Stadium. This a very different opponent in Purdue. 66-7. You mentioned earlier. They got the Notre Dame bounce back fire game after they gave up the upset to Northern Illinois. Now they come on the road to Reser. What do we know about the Boilermakers?
Well, that they've turned music off at practice this week.
Okay.
That's one thing I've learned. And you know what? That's not. We're talking a lot about music this morning, but that's not insignificant. In that's Ryan Walters' way of saying things are different this week, guys. We're not going to have the music plays at almost all practices all the time now, and they've shut that down. So, reporters have said, you hear the crunching of pads and extra drilling. And I don't know if it's Rich Brooks type when he used to get guys. I mean, guys could get hurt in some of the physical practices and back in his day before that got reined in a little bit. But the silence, the yelling, a lot of coaching, and I think a determined Purdue team will come out here because they were absolutely embarrassed. That's the very word that Ryan Walters said. He said, I'm embarrassed. I'm angry. We've got so many things to fix, and I will fix them. I mean, he's showing accountability to the players. Their leading safety, they've got one of the best safeties in the country, and a guy named Dylan Veneman, number 31, who said, things have flipped here. It's flipped this week. I can feel it. We're going to be a much different team. And the Beavers certainly have to have that same kind of mentality after the second half against Oregon, but they're at home with the students back and a beautiful evening expected, a high of 70, it should be in the 70s at the kickoff and be pleasant throughout. I'm expecting a great atmosphere at Reser and a bounce back by both teams. I think it'll be a very competitive game. Hudson Card's a good quarterback. He started 5 games at Texas before transferring in, and Purdue struggled mightily in every phase against Notre Dame, but Card is the real deal. They're getting a couple of receivers back. The Beavers get Darius Clemens, which I think can be a difference maker. Maybe not a huge splash right away, but Darius is expected to play against Purdue, and he's certainly going to be a major target for Giovanni McCoy going forward. So I expect both teams to play with great physicality and determination, and I expect a good football game.
Mike Parker will be on the call, 5:30 kickoff at Reser Stadium as the Beavers take on the Boilermakers. One more thing before we let you go, Mike, and it's going to sound a little bit weird, but you've done a talk show, so you know how these things go. We got off on a tangent with regard to hot dogs. Young Brendan has never had hot dogs cut up in his macaroni and cheese, which we had that discussion, which we don't need to talk about. But then we got into what is the best way to have a hot dog, which much like your coffee is a personal preference. So I was wondering, from a guy that's been to a lot of ballparks, probably had a lot of hot dogs. What is your ideal way to enjoy a hot dog, Mike?
Well, thank you for the question, and I will say that it's a matter of hot dogs, generally speaking, in my life, are simply a matter of kind of surviving a game, working a game. When I go to games as a fan, I never really get one. I don't get them. But at ball games when I'm working, in the summer games primarily, and I get a lot of those with the Corvallis Knights. One of the Knights interns at work, Mike, you need anything? Yeah, a hot dog and a Diet Coke, please. Now, so they bring up this hot dog. I throw the bun away, and during my 60 or 90-second break or whatever, I take the hot dog unadorned. And that's the way I take my hot dogs and eat them in 60 to 90-second commercial breaks. There it is. Thanks for asking.
That is fantastic. Hey, Mike, thanks so much for the time. Have a great call on Saturday. We'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thanks a lot, guys. Talk to you soon.
There we go. Mike Parker, the voice of the no bun, no condiments. Just give me the hot dog because we got runners on second and third, and we just had a pitching change. Love it. All right, coming up next, we have got the RCM mailbag to wrap up the big show. 620 Rip City Radio. Hey, make sure you not only listen to us each and every morning, and we thank you. We're appreciative. But also make sure you listen to Rip City Drive between 3 and 6 each and every day. But more importantly, on Tuesdays. Why? Because they got tickets. Tickets to upcoming Thorns games each and every Tuesday. It is Ticket Tuesday all throughout the month of September, 3 to 6 each and every afternoon. But more importantly, Ticket Tuesday every Tuesday with Rip City Drive, Dwight and Chad here on 620 Rip City Radio. We have got a mailbag to get to. Here we go.
All right, pretty excited to take over the mailbag today. I've had a question I've wanted to ask Justin for 3.5 hours. And I've
3.5 hours.
And I've held it since I walked in this morning because I knew you'd have a good take on it. So, in things that make me, we'll start with things that make me sad.
Okay.
So in things that make me sad, Justin, my middle brother Brogan, who I'm very close with, leaving for Oregon State tomorrow.
There we go.
Tonight is his
circle of life.
Yep. Last night at home, moving down into the dorm, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So we took him out for dinner last night and said, let's have a little blowout, and went to Olive Garden. And Justin, their never-ending pasta bowl is back.
Yeah, buddy.
$14.99. They will bring you unlimited bowls until you are fat and full. So you pick a pasta. You pick a sauce.
I'm aware of how the unlimited pasta bowl works.
So
I have had my fair share of unlimited pasta bowl.
So the question,
or the never-ending pasta bowl.
Yeah. So the question is, Justin, in your heyday, because last night I was very proud of myself. I left the breadsticks alone.
You can't fill up on the breadsticks.
Left the salad alone. Crushed that first plate. Absolutely crushed it. Took the second plate home.
You took the second plate home?
I did. Yep.
You got a never-ending pasta bowl and you ended it? You didn't even get to the third plate?
Well, if you take two home, you pay for it. It's $14. I mean, $7 a plate's a darn good
understand.
Price. Darn good price.
I'm just saying. You didn't get to the third plate?
Oh, God. No one at our table did.
Okay.
But I'm just curious, in your heyday, because then all of a sudden, then it was, save the rest of the pasta bowl, take it home, then have your breadsticks, then have your salad. And instead of getting Wendy's on my way home today, got an awesome pasta bowl waiting for me at home.
Okay.
So I'm just curious, in your heyday, how many of these could you crush? And what would be your pasta choice? I went rigatoni last night.
Is rigatoni the spiral?
Yes.
Yeah, spiral's the jam.
Gotcha.
Second place, penne. I like the penne, and I like a meat sauce.
Yeah.
I want a meat sauce. I don't want Alfredo in that situation. I want a spiral noodle or the penne, which is the little tubes. I talk about pasta in the shapes that they're in. I don't know. I know some of the names, but I know the shapes.
Yeah, I rocked one.
So I would go meat sauce on a rigatoni. I'll give you that, or a meat sauce and penne, I should say. And dude, we're bare minimum. We're going 3 bowls. I am not walking out of there with 3 bowls. And I'm eating breadsticks and salad. Now, this was when I was very fat.
What could you do now? Now.
I think just out of matter of principle, I at least got to get through plate number 2. I don't know if I would order the never-ending pasta bowl.
Okay, fair enough.
Because, again,
it's a great price, though. That's the thing. Good price.
I could not be disciplined enough to say no to the bread and the salad. I'm eating the bread and the salad.
Oh, it was so hard. Because I sat there and I'm like, okay, at $14.99, you need to get 2 bowls for it to be worth it.
Yes.
So, and even 1 bowl at $14 is not bad. I mean, compared to what prices are these days, folks, $14.99 is not bad for a sit-in, dine-in food.
Would you go meat sauce? Or would you go Alfredo?
Alfredo first, and then the marinara sauce second. So that's what's waiting for me at home. But the Alfredo, it hit.
Alfredo's heavy.
Yeah, it is.
It's a heavy first course. A lot of people can't battle back from that.
I should have maybe went Alfredo second and marinara first.
So I would have eaten the breadsticks, asked for a second thing of breadsticks. Those would be the take home.
We have them too.
I'm not taking home salad. Salad won't sit overnight.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Salad, that's all wilted. That's done. You got to eat the salad there. And give me as much of the cheese on there You know, we get the sound like say when. It's like it's gonna be a minute.
Oh,
hope
yeah,
you did.
no,
hope you did some stretching because it's gonna be a minute. But yeah, I think I could get. I don't know. I don't even. It's been so long since I've done a never-ending pasta
So let
bowl.
me ask you this: would it surprise you if I told you that the 18-year-old in our group didn't even get to the second plate?
Yeah, he's gonna have to learn. Like he's going to college, right? There's two kinds of college economics. There's the one you take at Econ 208 or whatever. Then there is the survival of economics, which is when mom and dad are paying, you have to scarf.
Yes.
Scarf as much as possible.
Yep.
Whenever somebody else is paying, you have like a boa constrictor, like this boa constrictor, they'll eat like a rabbit and that's just what they eat for like a month. That's what you have to do as a college student is like when mom and dad are paying, it is.
Yeah, you got
to order big. Order big. See, you learned. You took some home.
Yeah, so get this. So we're sitting
when
there.
You're on your own, that's when you get like strategic and you don't get, but like mom and dad are paying or if somebody else is like, I got this, or you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. No, I got to shout out
big.
I got to shout out our waiter, man, because he's coming back. He's like, oh, you guys want some breadsticks to take home? Oh, and then he comes to my brother and he goes, okay, I see you're not going to get another one. You want one to take home? And he's like, nah, I don't think so. And mom and I are like, yes,
he does. Bring it. Yes, he does.
Good times, man.
It is September. By October, he shall learn this. I bet
agree.
you.
We'll
by
check
October, he shall learn this, which is always get something to take home, dude.
Always. I mean, that's what we thought too, man.
They got little mini fridges in the dorms?
He's got one, yeah.
Okay, you got a little mini fridge, you'll be all right.
Yeah, he'd be all right. But yeah, he got to learn to stretch that dollar for sure. College-nomics.
Especially when mom's paying.
Agree.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll take some. And do you have any more in the back? What do you got?
Just more and more.
We used to do that at Jack in the Box all the time. It's like, do you have any food that you're about to throw out? We'll take it.
It's like
and they were like, oh, sure, here you go.
That's the Michael Scott. Well, what about a hot dog you're going to throw away? Well, can you throw one away in my mouth? Like, come on, man.
We did it at 7-Eleven all the time, too. We do it at 7-Eleven at 2 in the morning. It's like, are any of those ready to be thrown away? You just give them to us, and they're like, here you go.
Clutch.
All right, that's going to do it for the big show. Thanks to Mike Parker. Thanks to super producer Brendan. Thanks to all of you. Have a terrific Thursday. We got a Fancy Coffee Friday tomorrow here on 620 Rip City Radio.